Hello and welcome to Learn English Through Stories. Today's story is called The Last Letter. It is an intermediate level story, suitable for B1 to B2 learners. Before we begin, let's learn 5 important words you will hear in this story. First word, asterisk asterisk. To remember asterisk asterisk. To remember means to bring something back to your mind, a person, a place, a moment from the past. In this story, an old woman remembers something she had almost forgotten. Second word, asterisk asterisk. Regret asterisk asterisk. Regret is a feeling of sadness about something you did or did not do in the past. You wish you had made a different choice. For example, you might regret not saying something when you had the chance. Third word, asterisk asterisk. Envelope asterisk asterisk. An envelope is the paper cover that holds a letter. You write the address on the envelope, put a stamp on it, and mail it. In this story, an envelope is found after 50 years. Fourth word, asterisk asterisk. To hesitate asterisk asterisk. To hesitate means to pause before doing something, because you are not sure, or because you are afraid. For example, she hesitated before opening the door. Fifth word, asterisk asterisk. To fade asterisk asterisk. To fade means to slowly lose color, strength, or clarity. A photograph fades in the sun. A memory fades over time. In this story, memories fade, but some do not fade completely. Listen once more. To remember, regret, envelope, to hesitate, to fade. Keep these words in mind as you listen. The house was quiet, as it always was now. Margaret sat in her favorite chair by the window, a cup of tea cooling on the small table beside her. Outside, the autumn trees were turning gold and red and orange, and the afternoon light came through the glass and made patterns on the carpet. She was 82 years old, and she had lived in this house for 55 of those years. She had raised her children here. She had grown old here. And now, the house was full of things she had accumulated over a lifetime, and she had decided it was time to sort through some of them. It was in a box at the back of the bedroom closet that she found it. The box was old, the cardboard soft with age. Inside, there were photographs, old birthday cards, a dried flower, and, at the very bottom, an envelope. The envelope was yellow with age. It had no stamp. There was no address written on it, but on the front, in handwriting she recognized immediately as her own, were 2 words, for Thomas. Margaret's hands trembled. She sat down on the edge of the bed and held the envelope carefully, as if it were made of glass. She had not thought about Thomas in years, or perhaps she had thought about him every day but had become so used to the thinking that she no longer noticed it. Now, holding this envelope, she remembered everything. She was 19. The year was 1962. She was living in a small town in the north of England, and she was working in her father's shop. Thomas was a young man who had come to the town to work on the new bridge being built over the river. He was tall, with dark hair and a quiet, serious way of speaking that made everything he said seem important. She had met him at the market on a Saturday morning. He had asked her the way to the post office, and she had walked with him, and they had talked. And by the time they reached the post office, she knew that something had changed inside her. They had seen each other every day that summer. He would meet her after work, and they would walk along the river, or sit on a bench in the park, or go to the cinema on Saturday evenings. Thomas spoke about his dreams. He wanted to travel, to see the world, to build bridges in far-off places. He spoke about South America, about Africa, about the bridges that needed to be built across great rivers in countries she had never heard of. When he talked, his eyes lit up, and Margaret felt the excitement of it, the adventure, the possibility. But Thomas also spoke about leaving. His work on the bridge in her town would be finished by autumn, and then he would move on to the next project, in the next town, in the next country. And he had asked her, one evening in August, as they sat by the river watching the sunset, to come with him. "I cannot give you a house," he had said. "I cannot give you a settled life. But I can give you the world, if you will come with me." Margaret had hesitated. She had hesitated because she was afraid. She was afraid of leaving everything she knew, her family, her town, her safe, predictable life. She was afraid of a future she could not see clearly. She was afraid that love, however strong, might not be enough. And so she had said nothing, and Thomas had waited, and the days passed, and still she said nothing. She had written the letter on the night before Thomas left. She sat at her desk and wrote everything she felt, that she loved him, that she was sorry, that she wished she were braver, that she hoped he would forgive her for being weak. She wrote that she would remember him always. She put the letter in the envelope and wrote his name on the front. But she did not seal it. She did not put a stamp on it. She did not send it. The next morning, Thomas came to the shop to say goodbye. He looked at her with those dark, quiet eyes, and he said, "Margaret, if you have anything to say to me, say it now." She had the letter in her pocket. She could feel it there, pressed against her side. But she hesitated. She smiled and said, "Goodbye, Thomas. Take care." And he had nodded, and walked away, and that was the last time she had ever seen him. She had heard from a mutual friend, years later, that Thomas had gone to South America, then to Africa. That he had married a woman he met on a project in Kenya. That he had children. That he had built many bridges. That he had been happy. Margaret, for her part, had married a good man, a kind, steady, dependable man who ran a local bank and never wanted to leave the town. She had loved him, in her own way, and they had had a good life together. He had died 10 years ago, peacefully, in the same bed where she now sat holding this letter. Margaret opened the envelope. The paper inside was thin and fragile. The ink had faded. Some words were barely visible. But she could still read it. She could still hear her own voice in the words, a voice from more than 50 years ago, a voice full of love and fear and regret. "My dearest Thomas," the letter began. "I am writing this because I cannot say it to your face, and I know that makes me a coward. I love you. I have loved you since that morning at the market when you asked me the way to the post office, and I have loved you every day since. You asked me to come with you, and I want to. God help me, I want to. But I am afraid. I am afraid of what I would be leaving behind, and I am afraid of what I would be walking toward. I am afraid that one day you would regret asking me, and I am afraid that one day I would regret saying yes. So I will stay, and you will go. And I will spend the rest of my life wondering what would have happened if I had been braver. I will not send this letter. I cannot. But I need to write it, because if I do not put these words somewhere, they will stay inside me forever, and I think they would break me. So I am putting them here in this envelope, and I will keep it, and it will be my secret, and my sorrow. Goodbye, my love. Go and build your bridges. See the world. Be happy. And know that somewhere, in a small town you will probably never return to, there is a woman who loved you and who was not brave enough to say so." Margaret finished reading and set the letter down on the bed. Her eyes were wet, but she was not crying, not exactly. It was more like a gentle rain, the kind that comes after a long dry season. She did not feel overwhelmed. She felt clear, as if something that had been stuck for 50 years had finally been allowed to move. She thought about the word regret. She had heard people say that regret is a waste of time, that you should not look back, that the past cannot be changed. And perhaps that was true. But she also thought that regret was a kind of love, a love for a version of yourself that you can no longer reach, a love for a path you did not take, a love for a person who is gone. Regret, she thought, is what remains when love has nowhere to go. She did not regret her life. She had had a good life. She had loved her husband. She had raised her children well. She had friends and memories and a home full of warmth. But she also carried this letter, this love she never expressed, this road she never took. And she thought that was all right. Not everything had to be resolved. Not every story had to have a neat ending. Some things could just be held, gently, in the heart, and that was enough. Margaret folded the letter and put it back in the envelope. She carried it downstairs to the living room and placed it on the mantelpiece, next to a photograph of her late husband and a small vase of dried flowers. She looked at it for a moment, and then she smiled. It was a small, quiet smile, the smile of a woman who had lived a long time and who understood that life is not about making the right choices. It is about making choices and living with them. The letter sat on the mantelpiece, and the autumn light shifted and changed, and the tea grew cold, and the house was quiet. But it was a different kind of quiet now, not the quiet of emptiness, but the quiet of something that had finally been acknowledged, something that had been carried for 50 years and was now, at last, at rest. Now let's check your understanding. I will ask 5 questions. After each one, pause and try to answer. Question 1. How old is Margaret, and what is she doing when she finds the letter? Pause. Question 2. Why did Margaret decide not to go with Thomas when he asked her? Pause. Question 3. Why did Margaret write the letter but never send it? Pause. Question 4. How does Margaret feel after reading the letter? Does she feel regret, or something else? Pause. Question 5. What does Margaret mean when she thinks that regret is what remains when love has nowhere to go? Pause. Thank you for listening to Learn English Through Stories. I hope the last letter moved you as much as it moved me. If you want to practice, try writing your own short letter to someone or even to yourself. Remember, every word you write in English makes you a better English speaker. See you next time. Goodbye.